is an accomplished public speaker and activist who has devoted his life to helping others. Not bad for a guy who was completely nonverbal for the first few years of his life. But once Kerry Magro found his voice, he had a lot to say.
Dr. Kerry Magro is an award-winning professional speaker, best-selling author, and one of the leading advocates for the autism community. He has written 5 books, all of which have reached Amazon's bestseller list, and earned his doctorate in educational technology leadership. Over the past decade, Kerry has dedicated his career to empowering individuals with disabilities, promoting inclusion, and sharing his personal journey from non-speaking autism to becoming a full-time speaker. For his efforts, he's been featured in major media outlets such as The Today Show, CBS News, and The New York Times. In addition to his speaking work, Kerry is the CEO and president of his nonprofit, where he has provided scholarships to autistic students for college. He also started a grant program to help provide financial resources for special education teachers, aides, and therapists to support their classrooms. Kerry has collaborated with global businesses like Google, BlackRock, and American Express to highlight the ROI benefits of autism and neurodiversity in the workplace. He has also partnered with schools, nonprofits, and parent organizations, spreading the message of inclusion far and wide. Beyond his work as a speaker, Kerry, who grew up with a love of theater, has served as an autism entertainment consultant for both TV and film projects to bring a realistic portrayal of autism to the screen. He was the autism consultant for the film The Present, starring Greg Kinnear, and even received a credit in Ezra, starring Robert De Niro. He's also contributed his expertise as a consultant for Netflix's 5-time Emmy award-winning series Love on the Spectrum US. And now, without further ado, Dr. Kerry Magro.
A letter I would have written for my parents when I was still nonverbal. Dear Mom and Dad, I know it's breaking your heart to see me as I am now. Most of the kids we know are starting to talk, while I'm just making sounds. I'm lashing out because I'm struggling. I can't communicate my needs, and things are just not going the way I wish they would. I scream and fight with you every single time you try and bathe me because I can't stand the feeling of water on my skin. I cringe anytime I hear thunder, and I don't like to be touched because of my sensory challenges. Even now, as we make all the adorable videos of me dressed up as one of the best looking toddlers of all time, I know things aren't easy, and I don't know what the future has in store. I want to tell you, though, to keep fighting for me and believing in me, because without you both, my greatest advocates I'll ever have in my life, I'm not going to be the person I am today. There's hope. And you all play a huge part in that. Things are going to get better. And without you, that wouldn't be possible. At 2.5, I'm going to say my first few words. And at 4, you're going to find out from a doctor I have this thing called autism. In 1992, it will be something you have only heard from some of the leading experts in the field and from the 1988 movie Rain Man. The road now, it's going to be difficult. But you know what? We're going to get through this together. Supports are going to be difficult to come by. The numbers of autism in the United States are going to be 1 in every 1,000 at the time. And so many people still don't understand. Life is going to be difficult. Challenges are coming. But here's why you should fight through those challenges with me today. Because by fighting for me every single day, and helping me go through occupational, physical, speech, music, and theater therapy for the next 16 years, while giving me support at home and in school, I'm going to grow into an adult who travels across the globe as a professional speaker and gives talks about autism and neurodiversity with schools and companies across the country. Because if you fight for me right now and never give up, not only will I be that speaker, I'll have the opportunity to write 7 books that reach an Amazon bestseller list, consult for several major motion pictures that made several $1 million, and be someone who gives you love every single day. I will grow into an adult who embraces affection. Love, your son, Kerry. I hope for anyone here today, as we start off this keynote, coming from now a 37-year-old autistic adult who now has his doctorate in education, that you never give up on your loved ones. The autism spectrum is wide, and everyone's journey is going to be slightly different compared to the next person you meet. Become an advocate and fight every single day for reliable autism resources across the lifespan and across the spectrum for those in our community. So guys, I wrote this poem when I was coming out with my first book when I was 23 years old, when I first came up to my peers about having autism for the first time. Because as I'm sure many of you in this room know, some people don't look like they have autism. I often get told whenever, especially when I speak at companies, they say to me, Kerry, you have autism, but you don't look like you have autism. And then I tell them, yeah, well, I parted my hair the other way today, so you couldn't get to see the autism. But in all seriousness, guys, one of my dear friends in the autism community, he's a great autism advocate. His name is Dr. Stephen Short, and he says, if you met one autistic person, you met just that one autistic person. So the importance, regardless of your, and just by a show of hands really quickly today, how many parents do we have in the room? How many educators do we have in the room? Therapists? Grandparents? Self-advocates? Okay. The reason why I say that is because it truly, truly takes a village of support within our community. So during my journey, I got my undergraduate degree at Seton Hall University, where I'm based in New Jersey. I grew up with two laser-focused key interests. I grew up wanting to become the sixth member of the Backstreet Boys, because what 11-year-old didn't hear the Millennium album and go to the Millennium Tour, and now wants to go to the Sphere in Las Vegas for the 25th anniversary. What up? Okay. But growing up, because there was always something weird about noises for me because of my sensory challenges, there's always something soothing about music. So my parents really latched on to theater and music therapy, and it helped me overcome a lot of my challenges with sensory stimuli. My second love was I wanted to become the next Kobe Bryant. So growing up, they called me the math mamba because I was able to literally do math like nobody's business. It was insane. But growing up, I could tell you all 30 NBA teams and every single player on one of those teams. And that got me my degree in sport management at Seton Hall University before deciding to change career paths to find a full-time career in public speaking. I realized that there are a lot of people in the autism community who didn't have the ability to share their voice, and I wanted to be a voice for them. As somebody who is blessed with so many opportunities in my life, I wanted to give it back and support those with neurodiverse conditions. And I've been doing that work for the past 14 years as one of the first openly autistic, publicly certified public speakers in the US. And it's given me the wonderful opportunity to travel the globe, speak at over 1,400 events in the past 14 years, all around making sure that we are embracing neurodiversity. And we're understanding that minorities, especially in the disability community, are one of the most untapped talent pools for not only our schools to consider, but also our companies as well. So my latest book, Autistics on Autism, shares 75 stories of autistic adults. While my full-time work is in public speaking, I get the wonderful opportunity to have a 501c3 where we've been able to provide 162 scholarships for autistic students to pursue a post-secondary education. And our latest book that just came out last Tuesday, Autistics on Autism, the next chapter, we actually highlighted over 75 of our scholarship applicants who are all autistic adults in the hopes of giving a tell-all book from a first-person perspective to help educate parents on what autism looks like, especially for those who are pursuing a post-secondary education, with 100% of the proceeds going back to our many initiatives like our scholarship fund. I'm so happy to say that we reached number 2 on an Amazon bestseller list just last week, and we're continuing to see a lot of people in our community talking more and more about adult autism via this book, which has been really, really exciting. On my Facebook page, where some of you guys may know me, is Kerry's Autism Journey. One of the things that I try to do on there is highlight the spectrum of autism. And I actually found this poem that I wrote when I was really, really young that I actually shared on my Facebook page, which has a universal message that I hope you guys can leave with from today's presentation. So the poem starts, I'm autistic. I'm not broken. I'm not done. I'm autistic. I'm not always overwhelmed. I'm not always wanting to be by myself. I'm autistic. I'm the only person in my family to have this. I'm excited to make friends and for you to get to know me. I'm autistic, and I hope you can accept me and others like me. We long to belong. And those 4 words specifically are something that I hope you guys can leave with today. My poem speaks to the need for understanding, compassion, and inclusion for those on the spectrum. My own autism journey from being non-speaking to now being a professional speaker has taught me that with the right support, autistic individuals can thrive. By listening to voices like this, we can break down stereotypes and help build a world where autistic individuals feel seen, heard, and valued. Everyone deserves to belong. So, just some housekeeping notes. I'm going to share with you guys today over 30 key resources that you can utilize, regardless if you're a parent, educator, or therapist today, to support the autism community, from early intervention all the way to later adulthood. We'll have about 15 minutes at the end for any question that you guys have, but just by show of hands, really quickly, who likes free stuff? Because I know I do. Typically, when I'm at one of these events, I'm typically the person sitting in the front row taking a photo of every single PowerPoint slide so I don't miss anything. So we'll be providing you the PowerPoint slide notes during today's presentation. We'll be coming around with a form. If you leave your name and email, we'll make sure that you get all the PowerPoint slides from today in addition to all the videos that we'll be sharing as well. In addition to a list of free autism resources. Inflation is real in our community, so we create a free list of autism resources that we found across the United States to help you utilize in your local areas. So my diagnosis, again, we were at a time when there was a stigma around all autistic people being boys who were great at math. And when they turned 21, Tom Cruise would call you up and he would take you to Las Vegas. We'd have a few shots at the blackjack tables, and then I would win you $88,000 at the blackjack tables. That actually sounds really good, right? So, but now we know today that autism is a spectrum. In our community, 1 in 36 are currently impacted in the United States. 1 in 45 adults are also diagnosed with autism. In addition to that, boys are diagnosed 4 times more often. We need to have larger conversations in our autism community about girl autism. We also need to have larger conversations about level 3 autism and profound autism in our communities. Not every single person in our community is going to be the next good doctor on ABC, who stereotypically in our media representation, which we'll talk a little bit about today with Love on the Spectrum and a few other shows, is that we often see those savants who are able to do great things. And don't get me wrong, guys, that's awesome. That's so, so great. But we also have to remember that some individuals need 24/7 care within our community. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. I was considered in that middle to severe end, though, when I was growing up. A lot of people didn't know what my future had in store, especially because of my sensory-related challenges. I grew up in the big city, so there was always a lot of sensory stimuli. I wore noise-canceling headphones in most of my classrooms. I wore sunglasses due to the fluorescent lights in many of my K through 12 classrooms as well. And I was luckily thrilled to have an occupational therapist who I really established a great rapport with, who helped me overcome many of my obstacles and challenges. And that helped me, along with the 16 years, to be able to write 7 books. But taking my love of theater, I never got the opportunity to be the next Nick Carter, unfortunately. However, you know, there's still time, I guess. But I got the opportunity to work with our entertainment world in TV and film to bring a meaningful representation of neurodiversity to our entertainment industry. Getting the opportunity to work on films like Joyful Noise, based on one of the characters in this film having an autism diagnosis, starring Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton. Later, getting the opportunity to work with HBO. And then also, just by a show of hands, has anyone seen Love on the Spectrum on Netflix? Okay, so a few, yes. Are you guys excited? On World Autism Awareness Day on Tuesday, season 3 is coming out. Are you guys excited to check it out? Awesome. Tanner will be our closing keynote today, and if you guys have followed him on Instagram, he is awesome. Is he here? No, okay, we'll see him later. But getting the opportunity to highlight meaningful representations in Hollywood has been really, really important to see, because when I was diagnosed, it was 1 in 1,000. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in our country. And just to give you a quick idea of the show that we've had the opportunity to work on, I'm going to show you a quick trailer from our most recent season, which will come out on Netflix on Tuesday.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I'm sorry to see your face, John.
So you guys are still together?
Yes, we are.
How would you describe your ideal partner?
Oh, I'm not sure if we have that much time.
A girl who's very talkative like me, and a girl who eats nicely.
Has a very nice giggle and smile.
Witty, charming. I got a weakness for brunettes.
Someone who is able to have a back and forth conversation.
Polite, respectful, friendly.
I mean, there's like 8 billion people in the world. Somebody's gotta be the one for me.
Finding love can be hard for anyone.
I'm just a little nervous.
Always wonder what it'd be like to kiss a girl.
He's never gonna get married.
And for some people, it can feel like an impossible dream.
I'll find my prince. I'll find my prince.
I'm hoping for sparks.
I want her to be a party animal.
This series follows people on the autism spectrum
Oh.
as they navigate the confusing world of relationships
I don't think we're a romantic match.
and dating.
You want a hug? I'm gonna have to get the hose out on you two.
So Love on the Spectrum, the story of Love on the Spectrum is that it actually started off in Australia. So they were highlighting autistic individuals trying to find love in Australia. And I just written a book called Autism and Falling in Love based on over 10 years of journal entries where, guys, I still don't know how to talk to women. You can ask my girlfriend about that. But when I was 18, it was a real struggle. So I started writing journal entries in the hopes of helping me build the self-awareness about trying to find love one day for myself. And now today, I'm happy to say that I've been dating a girl for 2 years. We're moving in together soon, and we're really excited about what the future has in store because she's my rock and love of my life. What I will say, though, is get emotional just talking about her. One of the things that I often talk about, though, is the importance of when we talk about adult autism, we often hear about employment opportunities. We often hear about post-secondary opportunities. We talk about housing. But how, for a lot of the kids I mentor who are around the ages of 16 to 24, they don't want to talk about mock interviews. They don't want to talk about resume building. They want to talk about the hot girl and the handsome boy and how they could go about getting a relationship. So I wrote a book called Autism and Falling in Love. And actually, I got the opportunity to talk to the director of Love on the Spectrum in Australia. His name is Kian. And we started talking, and I told him about my book, sent him a copy of the book. And I was like, man, there's so many autistic people in the United States who are just trying to find romantic relationships, individuals like Tanner, who you'll hear about later today. So is there a possibility? And then they started talking to Netflix, and then one thing led to another. We got approved for our first season. We had actually over 650 people audition for the first season, which is incredible. And we've continued to see that number go up and up. And in the second season, we won 3 Primetime Emmy Awards, and in our third season, we won an additional 2. Hopefully we'll have a season 4. I signed an NDA. I can't tell you that, but there's some exciting stuff in that area as well. But one of the things that we get the opportunity to do is we work with the entire crew behind the scenes in sensitivity training on how to be as accessible and as accommodating to autistic individuals just trying to find love in relationships for the first time. So we try to teach each and every one of the crew members to meet each and every one of the cast members where they are in their own development, understanding that spectrum, while also discussing sensitivity on screen and topics that we really need to touch base on in the autism community. In addition to that, as we continue to have larger conversations on meaningful representation, we've also got the opportunity to work with PBS Kids. Show of hands really quickly. How many of you guys have heard of the show Carl the Collector? Awesome. So one of the cool things that we've gotten the opportunity to do is we actually wrote an episode for Carl the Collector recently. And Carl the Collector focuses on PBS Kids' first ever autistic main character. Carl is autistic. and he likes to collect things. It makes him happy. It's part of his routine. And that structure really, really helps him. So for those who haven't had the opportunity to check out Carl the Collector, I want to share a quick clip of one of our more recent episodes where he actually got to share a little bit about what makes him special.
Slow down. I need to talk to you. Nico, wait. Hi, Nico.
Not sure what's going on, but maybe hear him out?
I fell in the park and Carl didn't help me. That's what's going on. Hi, Nico. I'm sorry you thought I didn't want to help you when you fell. I wanted to help. Well, you didn't. What I was saying was, wait, where was I? Let me collect my thoughts. Carl's script to Nico. Hi, Nico. No, I already said that. This is because I'm autistic. Too far. Why can't Nico let me say my script? Now I don't know what to do.
Remember, breathe, give Nico time to think about what you're saying, and time to respond.
Hello? Carl? Ahem. I did want to help you, Nico. I do want to help. I was so scared when you fell, but I didn't know what to do. Why not? How could you not know what to do? You see, my brain works differently than some kids. I'm really great at remembering facts about my collections and birthdays. But sometimes it takes me longer to understand what others are thinking and feeling about stuff, and what to do in these situations. This is because I'm autistic. Autistic? Yes, my brain works differently than yours. Sometimes it takes me a little longer to understand new stuff. I hope this helps you understand what happened a little better. It does. Thanks for telling me. I kind of get it now.
I'm glad you told her, buddy.
Yeah, Carl, that's actually pretty cool. And now I know you better too. Do you forgive me, Nico? Of course I do. And I wanted to say I'm sorry too. You do? Yes. I was so confused and angry that it was hard for me to listen to you. And the fall kind of scared me. I just wanted you to help me. Like how? I'll give you some time to collect your thoughts. Thanks. But I don't really know. It's hard to explain.
Maybe go over to Nico right after she falls. Ask if she's okay.
Give her a hand to get up. Ask if they're okay. Help them get up. Thanks. I'll do those things next time, Nico. I'll try not to get so mad that it gets in the way of us talking things out. So, what do you say? Friends again? Yes. Wow, look at my kite.
Look at that.
Wow.
So, and it gets me emotional every time I watch that clip. What helped me most for my journey in the title, it was called Defining Autism from Non-Speaking to Professional Speaker. Self-advocacy is really, really important. It's really important that we have earlier conversations with our loved ones about their autism diagnoses, because one of the things that would have helped me tremendously when I was in pre-K was sitting in on my IEP meetings for 30 minutes and just learning a little bit more about what made me special. And that is why PBS Kids and what we're trying to do is we're trying to find entertainment elements to have earlier conversations with our kids about their autism diagnoses in the hopes that they don't necessarily see a stigma around autism and they can learn more about what it means to them. So getting the opportunity to work on Carl the Collector has been truly, truly phenomenal. One of the fun things that we get the opportunity to do on that show is that actually several of the voice actors are also casted by neurodivergent actors, in addition to having consultants on the show who are themselves autistic to focus on sensitivity. But we're continuing to see a trend, not only in our children's shows, but also with our teens and adults as well. We've gotten the opportunity to see films like Ezra, which we received a credit in, which came out last year, starring Robert De Niro and Bobby Carnival, that actually focuses on the relationship between a dad and his autistic son. And then also a really, really cool film that came out last year called The Present, which for the first time in the history of film, we got the opportunity to highlight an autistic person who communicates via an augmentative alternative communication device. Again, we hear a lot about level 1 autism in our mainstream media, but we need the opportunity to understand that around 40% of autistic children are either non-speaking or non-verbal today in our community, and we need to make sure that we're providing a voice for that population as well. So the talks I give the opportunity to go into K through 12 schools and give the opportunity to teach kids about the importance of autism and kindness, especially during months like April, which is Autism Acceptance Month. We have 27 talks throughout the month of April, thank God for coffee, where we're getting the opportunity to go into school districts and speak to students and also staff on teaching the way that our students learn and talking about inclusive classrooms and curriculum strategies that just work, especially around concepts like universal design for learning and making sure that we're meeting kids where they are in their development. We also get the opportunity to go into our businesses like the intro video mentioned. We got the opportunity to speak at different companies like the Googles, the BlackRocks of the world, realizing these 3 facts. When we talk about the bottom line in many of our companies, especially after COVID-19, when I would consult for companies, they would be like, well, I don't know if I can hire somebody with autism right now because it's going to affect my bottom line. The Department of Labor has indicated these 3 facts, that those with disabilities are more likely to stay at a job longer, they're more likely to take less time off from work, and the majority of reasonable accommodations for those with disabilities cost absolutely nothing. And when they do, it's typically just an onboarding fee of $500. So what we do with companies is we teach them about, it's not what a company can do for somebody with autism. It's what somebody with autism can do for that company, and navigating those conversations as part of professional development, understanding that it's the most untapped talent pool for our companies to consider. We also get the opportunity to go and talk about a really huge, important topic in our community, and it's something that I dealt with challenges when I was a younger child, wandering. We still see a staggering amount of individuals, especially in the level 2 and level 3 autism community, who wander from a safe environment and then unfortunately go missing as a result. So we get the opportunity to work with our first responders. We were actually just in conversations with the NYPD again about doing a second first responder training about the importance of how we can go about finding our loved ones as fast as possible when they wander from a safe environment, and also having those relationships with our parents when their child do go into a wandering situation, how best to report it so we can find them as fast as possible. Guys, if I leave you with one key message today, and it's something we talked about already, but it's a universal concept that we're talking more and more in our K through 12 programs, is the importance of realizing that disability has no look. We now know today in our society that autism has a lot of associations with mental health related challenges. And we need to have larger conversations in our community that just because somebody doesn't present to have challenges on the surface doesn't mean that they're not going through daily challenges in their own right, especially in our girl community, because girls are more likely to mask different characteristics in our autism community than boys today. It's important that we're having larger conversations. And why I love April being right next to May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, where we hope that April and May can coincide more with dual initiatives focused on discussing autism and mental health, knowing the importance of it in our communities today. So for the parents who are joining us today, during my research for my doctorate, I did my research in parents' perception of resources immediately following that diagnosis, because I'm sure many of the parents in this room, you felt like deer in headlights initially getting that diagnosis. And regardless if you got support or not, one of the things that I hope you can leave with is your child is the same child as they were before the diagnosis. And this is a quick clip that I wanted to share with all of you. And this is actually several of the videos I share on my Facebook page are key messages that I hope that I can give to parents. Remember, your child is the same child as they were before the diagnosis. They just may now be eligible for more supports to help them thrive. Growing up with autism, my parents realized that my diagnosis didn't change who I was. It was a tool that provided access to essential services and supports that are helping me even to this day. It was through this understanding and a lot of support, I was able to overcome many of my challenges to become the professional speaker I am today, speaking with all of you. This understanding opens up opportunities for our children to grow. Embrace this path with compassion and optimism, focusing on your child's abilities while continuing to work on their weaknesses. So during my autism journey, I think this was something that my parents had. My beautiful, wonderful mother is actually with me today, and she always gets embarrassed every single time I say that. Oh, and now she's waving today? This is the first time in like 1,400 speaking engagements she's waving. But this is something my mom needed when I was growing up, just to understand that I'm still going to be Kerry at the end of the day. Just hopefully now I'll be able to get the accommodations needed to succeed. And I hope that's a message I can leave for all of you parents, especially of newly diagnosed children. In addition to that, again, this whole idea around self-advocacy is really, really important. And it's something that I wish I had a better understanding of as a kid. One of the things that I get the opportunity to do via my nonprofit is we just have a little bit over 320,000 Facebook followers and just a little over 625,000 over all of our social media channels. We get the opportunity, every single place we get to go, we bring a tripod and a camera, and we sit down with self-advocates for 5 to 10 minutes at a time, and we ask them, what would you like the world to know about you? Not only the hopes of discussing a little bit about their journeys with a disability, but also to give them a platform to share a little bit about themselves. So one of the first individuals we ever got to highlight was this young boy named Liam, who never told anyone outside of his immediate family about his autism diagnosis. And this is what he wanted the world to know about his story.
So we're going to be talking to the camera, and we want to make you famous. So we literally want to make you probably the most famous person on the planet. How's it sound?
Okay.
No pressure.
Autism basically makes it hard to connect. It makes it hard to get that connection, to make friends. They feel like more loners than, well, in groups. It's also a learning disability, and in some cases, it's hard. You can't speak in some cases. I met a kid called Tom, who he has autism, but he can't speak in proper English. He needs an iPad.
So Liam, one thing I want you to know is that I was actually diagnosed with autism at an early age too. And I don't know if I've ever actually told you that, but I want you to know that I will always be here to be your friend if you need a friend, okay?
Yeah.
Because even though it may be hard at times to connect to other people, you know, I feel like so many people with autism like us just want like what anyone else wants, you know, to feel connected and to have a friend. So you'll always have a friend in me, okay? You want to pound this up?
Yeah.
Do you blow it up too? Oh, he blows it up. You're awesome, Liam.
I'm kind of tearing up. Sorry.
It's okay.
So this was Liam's first ever opportunity to share with anyone outside of his immediate family about his autism diagnosis. And 3 days after the video went up on our Facebook page, he received over 30,000 views, which was pretty respectable, but also at the same time, one of the coolest things though was that there were people in the comments saying, Liam, you will find friendships, you will find connections. Liam, unfortunately, was bullied a lot in school because of his autism journey and being an easy target because of his limited communication abilities. And one of the coolest things about the comments was a lot of people in our community just giving them positive praise, telling them, you know, you will find friends, you will find success. Liam is now a 17-year-old young man just got his driver's license and is doing some amazing, incredible things. And we realized that we could turn this into a project where we have a national platform to share the stories of people in our community. Why not highlight the self-advocates to give a better representation of what the spectrum actually looks like? Even highlighting those with level 3 autism by sharing parents' journeys with their child if the child doesn't have the ability to speak. And it's given us the opportunity to highlight a lot of different individuals, not only people with autism, but Down syndrome, cerebral palsy as well, in addition to a wide range of neurodiverse conditions. So what my parents did early on during this journey from non-speaking to professional speaker is they tried to rule out as many associated medical and mental health conditions as possible. Guys, if you see something is wrong, speak up. If, for example, we have a strong population of autistic people who are now being diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, we need to continue to be vigilant, especially when we see signs. Don't let a doctor who only spends 30 minutes with your child dictate what their future will be. You are your child's greatest advocates. Thank you. And get that second opinion and find out, because I actually found out that I had a dual diagnosis of dysgraphia when I was 18 years old. I always had fine motor challenges, so getting a dual diagnosis can potentially be something that you want to look into for your child, because again, we're trying to get the most resources for your child possible. And also just make sure that you are doing your utmost, especially when it comes to communication. One of the things I often say is that the key is communication, not speech in our community. We have a lot of people. I get over 150 emails every single month, typically from parents and educators. And one of the things they ask me is, Kerry, my child doesn't speak. When will my child speak? And it's so heartbreaking sometimes to hear that, because I was in that same area, not speaking complete sentences till I was 7. One of the things I want people to realize, though, is the goal is communication, not speech. Make sure that you are looking at American Sign Language, that you are looking at technology, augmentative alternative communication devices. Find ways to make sure that communication is the goal and not speech. And American Speech and Language Hearing Association have a lot of great resources on what you can do today to help in that area. Also, we need to have larger conversations in our schools around social skills. Common Core is not the representation of some in our autism community. Some are great at standardized testing, but others really have challenges with it. And one of the things I realized with a lot of standardized testing, especially in rural areas, is limited to no social skills training for autistic individuals. And that's how we have these conversations about self-advocacy and helping these individuals speak up for themselves. So being able to sit down with your children and talk about observable or measurable goals that you can have for your child, such as I'll greet my peers at least twice a week during group activities, or instead of writing notes, I will ask my teacher to help when I don't understand a situation at least once a week. Give them role-playing exercises where instead of just having something written down on paper, they could put into practice what they might potentially be able to do in terms of making friendships and connections in the future. And in terms of inclusion, we need to also have larger conversations about getting our kids out and engaged. One of the most heartbreaking things for me is when I see a kid playing Call of Duty 8 hours on the weekend, every single weekend. We need to get our kids engaged. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not necessarily about the kid not wanting to be engaged. It's that the world is not engaged for them. So being able to go to websites like Culture City has a wide range of certified autism destinations that you can consider, especially in terms of theme parks. In addition to, I shared this resource with another parent today, ibcces.org. They do certified autism centers where they train at least 80% of their employees on neurodiverse conditions. So not only are the employees ready for any situation that's going to be happening, but they also have sensory guides in their locations to show and indicate to parents how much of a sensory simulation each and every single destination will be, such as a ride or a location of a specific theme park. Sesame Place just got their certified autism center accreditation, and Sesame Place is actually huge in our autism community right now because of Julia, who was one of the first Muppets with autism to ever come to Sesame Street. In addition to that, there are some education foundations that are now being formed that are having larger conversations about picture exchange communication systems and being able to provide more grant opportunities to have nonverbal individuals be able to communicate with their verbal peers. It's important that we don't try to fit every single autistic person into a little box. That means getting nonverbal kids engaged with verbal kids based on where they are in their own development. When I worked on my first movie, Joyful Noise, with Queen Latifah, there's a great scene in there, if you guys have had the opportunity to check it out, where she's having a very heartfelt conversation with her autistic son. And the boy in the film says, "I just want to be normal for you, Mama." And it's very, very profound. And what Queen Latifah says to her son after that is, when things don't fit into a tiny, pretty little box, you build a bigger box. And that's a message I think can really resonate with many in our autism community. So finally, before we wrap it up for Q&A, 10 things that helped me during this journey from non-speaking to professional speaker. Self-advocacy is one of the most important notes I can ever give to any parent. We need to have earlier conversations with our kids, disclosing their diagnosis. I'm not talking about sitting in on an 8-hour IEP meeting. I'm talking about going to websites like iamdetermined.org, which actually have actual one sheets on how you can build a social story to have that initial conversation about an IEP meeting and just getting that conversation started, because there's so much anxiety, especially from autistic adults who went years knowing something was different, but not knowing what that was. It can be life-changing for so many of the individuals in our community who are developmentally ready to have those conversations. Also, role-playing. We just need to have larger conversations about, and in the show Love on the Spectrum, you'll see that we actually have conversations with a lot of the autistic individuals on what they could say on some of their first few dates. Being able to have those role-playing situations is really, really important throughout K through 12 and then in adulthood as well. Servant leadership, I feel like our kids need to be more engaged with community service. I think it's a time in our country where there's so many people who are just so confused and so scared of what the future may have in store. Giving back to those who are in unfortunate situations really needs to be addressed more and more. And for some kid like me, who was an only child, a spoiled only child, mind blindness was something that I really, really struggled with. Not being able to understand the perspectives of others. And getting involved with just 10 hours of community service during an academic year helped me understand the hardships that some individuals face. It wasn't only myself going through hardships, it was other individuals as well. Learning from other self-advocates. You're going to hear from another great self-advocate in Tanner today, but you're also getting that from individuals like in my video at the beginning, Temple Grandin, who's a world-renowned autism advocate, in addition to Dr. Stephen Shore, who quoted the term, if you met one autistic person, you met just that one autistic person. Peer mentoring, another key thing that we need in more of our K through 12 schools. If your school has a strong special education parent advisory council, or you are part of the school's PTA, ask what your school is doing about a peer mentoring program. I was in Las Vegas just a little time ago, speaking at a staff development for over 350 K through 12 educators, and I asked them by a show of hands, how many of you in your classrooms have a peer mentoring program? And only 3 out of the 350 raised their hands. Peer mentoring has not only been shown to help with things like bullying prevention by giving an ally to those autistic kids who are being bullied, but it also helps build on social skills, confidence, and also helping with their own self-advocacy, getting the opportunity to know somebody a little bit older who is on the same journey, being able to help with that as well. In terms of recreating the wheel when it comes to therapies, I always say that you know your child best, but I have seen benefits of cognitive behavioral therapy as a way of helping autistic kids be able to associate negative challenges with positive reactions. Basically being able to take any mental health related challenges or any challenging behaviors, especially during puberty season. If any of you have teenagers, being able to bring back to a positive perspective. Self-reflection, if you take 3 minutes after today's presentation and Google journal therapy, it's a great recommendation I give for a lot of autistic kids throughout K through 12 to be able to understand and be self-aware of what their autism journey means to them as individuals. Physical activity, we need to have larger conversations in our school about not negating physical education because it has been shown to have short and long-term benefits towards retention, but also in terms of releasing positive endorphins. Finding support networks, Autism Strong Foundation is a great place to start. If you guys could give back to their organization in any way, it's a thank you for you guys having this out today. We're actually going to be donating signed copies of each one of our books in case you have a resource library to continue to provide an education for your families. And then finally, writing about your story. It's so important now in our community that you realize that, honestly, guys, I know of a mom who has 4 Facebook friends. That's not a joke. And she went viral just because she shared her story with her nonverbal son. And you never know how your voice can truly, truly have power in our community. So in closing, as we've talked about a little bit today, autism is a journey, one filled with challenges, victories, and moments of uncertainty. But through it all, one thing remains true. None of us have to walk this path alone. We have each other, especially you guys in this room. We have a community that understands, that fights, and that never gives up. And that's why I want to leave you with these words that you could see here. A message not just for me, but all of us in the autism community. So the letter goes, Dear autism community, autism doesn't come with an instruction guide. Sometimes comes with a family who will never give up. I wrote these words because I truly lived them. Autism is a journey of challenges, victories, and moments of uncertainty. But one thing remains true. We are never alone. Our community is built on strength, love, and resilience. We push for understanding when the world doesn't understand. We fight for resources when doors are closed. We celebrate every small step forward because we know how much it matters. But the truth is, too many autistic individuals and their families still struggle to find support. Autism is lifelong, and support should be too. No one should be left behind simply because they've, quote unquote, aged out of services at 21. So today I ask you, don't stop advocating, ever. Keep pushing for inclusion, for better resources, and for a world where autistic voices are not just heard, but valued. Autism is a lifelong journey, and so is our fight for acceptance. And as long as we believe, and as long as we fight, and as long as we never give up, there is always hope. Thank you guys so much for having me here today. Thank you, guys. And now it's up to you guys. Any thoughts, questions that you guys have from today's presentation? In addition, you guys should receive the PowerPoint slide forms. If you leave your name and email, we'll be having a book signing during the breakout session. So you'll walk out these doors and you'll leave your PowerPoint slide form there, and we'll make sure you get the PowerPoint slides. Any thoughts, questions?
Does anybody have a question?
And as I should tell you, so I was giving a talk to a second grade classroom. We were doing a story time, and I kid you not, there's no such thing as a dumb question. The first 3 questions I received: 1, have you ever met Taylor Swift? Which I would love to, honestly. I'm a big Tay-Tay fan. Second one, because they said that, was, have I ever met Katy Perry? And I was like, I thought there was bad blood there. And then third, did anyone ever tell you you look a little like George Clooney? And I'm like, how does a second grader know about George Clooney? It's like, I hear Backstreet Boys in Walgreens, the music, and I'm like, don't they listen to One Direction now? It's like, I thought that was the George Clooney generation. So as I could say, there's no such thing as a dumb question. I'm an open book. Thoughts, questions? Oh, yes. So great question. So the question was, what services did my parents seek out for me when I was a child? Really the important thing after that initial diagnosis of PDD and OS was about trying to meet me where I was. This was a perfect time because I was just starting pre-K and getting an IEP. So being able to understand the biggest and most important thing right away was sensory challenges. I would kick and scream and hit my babysitters because I would always have a lot of sensory stimuli around me. They would try to engage with me, and because of not having the routine of knowing different voices for the first time, I would lash out. So it was really important not only to get those hours of occupational therapy in school, but we also had an in-house occupational therapist come in on weekends and actually help me with sensory reinforcement therapy, which basically meant that I had, for example, I had this sensory brush where you could get it from like websites like funandfunction.com, where I would rub a brush on my hand for 5 minutes a day, especially when there would be loud noises going on in the background, to find a way of triggering my brain to have muscle memory. So when every one of those loud noises was happening, I would be able to come back to a sensation that I felt comfortable with. Obviously, today we have kids who use fidget spinners and other sensory toys, but that was something really, really helpful during my early development. And then it was just really, occupational therapy was really the big thing, because like the NBC Today Show video mentioned, once they started talking, you couldn't get me to stop talking. So, great question. Yes?
Sorry, it's not a question. I just want to give a shout out because I know in the 90s it was very different than it is today.
Oh, yes.
So shout out to your mom and your dad and your family for all the support and the innovation that they did to find those things that work for you. And even though it's 2025 and we do have lots of resources, we also still need to be innovative now to find out what the individual person needs. Kudos to your mom.
Oh, thank you so much. It's true, like you said, it's so important. Yeah.
Hey, Kerry, Becky Large, Autism Travel Club. Good to see you.
Hey, Becky, nice to meet you in person.
So, right? What advice would you give to parents or maybe people with autism? My son is 22 and he does not want to be identified as being autistic, but has lost a job recently because of his autism and not sharing that with his employer, I guess getting proper supports, and so he is in a deep depression now, and we're just trying to navigate, you speak to people his age all the time.
Right, yeah. Well, understanding the 5 levels of grief is obviously one of the first things I do whenever anybody gets rejected, whether in an employment situation or in a relationship situation as well. One of the big things, though, is to take your time getting back on the saddle when it comes to employment. We live in a very interesting time, especially when it comes to autistic people trying to find meaningful employment. I will say there are a wealth of resources on spectrumcareers.org, which is actually a job portal that actually help find jobs for autistic people while also training employees on how best to help autistic individuals. So that's, go ahead. Oh, okay. Well, right. Well, in terms of that, I mean, the most important thing is to give. Does he have a peer mentor? Got it. Yeah, it's really important just to reinforce the ideas that, I still deal with challenges with autism today, and making sure that people know that it's only one part of a larger story and journey for them. That's something I try to reinforce with every single young adult I work with, and also the importance of understanding that we do have organizations that want to help. It's just about finding those key resources and finding what best meets your needs. I also recommend for every single individual I work with is if they have a neurodiverse friendly workplace, going to websites like Glassdoor, Monster.com, and actually reading reviews from actual organizations who actually have. So there is this great index. It's called the Disability Equality Index, and it focuses specifically on companies that have fair hiring practices for those with disabilities and neurodiverse conditions. So if you just do a Google search for Disability Equality Index, you can learn a little bit more on what companies are doing, especially because not every single person needs to disclose to their manager about their diagnosis for services, although they need to go to their human resources if they need fair and reasonable accommodations. And some young individuals I work with have not needed those accommodations and have just gone about the process of looking for work without those accommodations as well. So best of luck to your son. Thoughts? Yes.
Hey, yes. So you mentioned you sat in on your IEP meetings when you were young, and I guess I'm curious to at what age and how did your parents go about introducing to you that, hey, you have this thing called autism? Just what did that look like?
Oh, great question. So it's actually a funny story. We were playing disability celebrity bingo in a social skills class when I was 11 and a half years old, and we were learning that the GOAT, Michael Jordan, had ADHD, and we were learning about all the most talented and successful people in the world, all having disabilities. And at the end of the class, I raised my hand and I said, so teacher, you said all these individuals are special. Like, I never knew that Dan Aykroyd had autism, and that's so cool. Long story short, he contributes autism to the reason why he was able to co-write Ghostbusters, because growing up, being a crime detective and a ghost hunter were his two laser-focused key interests that he wanted to do, and he contributed his autism to creating Ghostbusters. But I raised my hand and asked my teacher, so why am I special? And that was the first time, my teacher said, you have to talk to your parents about that. I was like, okay, all right, I know it's a loaded question. And I asked my parents, and they said, autism is just something that makes you who you are. It's a social and communication disorder, but at the end of the day, you're just Kerry. And I was like 11, so I was like, okay, cool, and just went to go watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reruns. But as I got older, I wanted to sit in on more of my IEP meetings to go about that transition. Now today, I definitely recommend that kids have these earlier conversations at 4 or 5 years old, if they're developmentally ready to have those conversations, just to get that initial conversation started about that process. Yes.
Awesome. Well, okay, final question.
Okay.
Hi, what challenges do you have as an adult, and how do you navigate through those challenges now?
Transitions are a beast. I'm moving in with my girlfriend next month, and literally I keep talking to my mom about this, like, how am I gonna find, I have 27 talks in April, so I'm like, how do I find time to box everything while also moving out by May 1st? So I still deal with challenges with routine, transition challenges, also small talk, also sometimes with eye contact. A little bit if I'm overwhelmed in certain situations where there's a lot of sensory stimuli going on, lots of people, then sometimes I feel a little burnt out, and then I need some time by myself to actually go about the process of trying to recharge. My recharge time is way more time than a neurotypical individual. I need a day in between just to recharge the batteries. I'm sure many parents in this room could understand too if you have an autistic child sometimes, but those are some of the key challenges. And I still deal with, I've been stimming during this entire presentation, and I wouldn't say that stimming is a challenge necessarily, but sometimes I feel like it kind of hinders me in some areas, because it takes, I know I'm moving my hands around a little too much, and I sometimes think about that, and I feel like people are going to judge me because of that. And I say you gotta let people stim, embrace the flap. Thank you, guys.
Everybody, let's give it up for Dr. Kerry Magro.
Thank you.